Good evening to all distinguished academicians, faculty members, IQAC coordinators, administrators, and students. I warmly welcome you to day 2 of our faculty development program on Naac 2026, Understanding Excellence and Achieving Accreditations. In today's session, we shall focus on one of the most important critical aspects of accreditation process, criteria-wise understanding and documentation in Naac 2026 framework. Documentation is not merely a collection of files, it is the institutional evidence that demonstrates quality, accountability, and continuous improvement. Let us now discuss about the session roadmap for today's FDP. Today's session has been carefully structured into 5 major components. We shall begin with a brief recap of why accreditation is very important. Then we shall understand the 7 assessment criteria of Naac. After that, we will examine each criterion individually, identifying its primary focus areas and the documentation expected. Subsequently, we shall discuss systematic documentation practices and conclude with quality assurance principle that help institutions prepare a strong and credible self-study report. By the end of this session, participants will gain a practical understanding of organizing institutional evidence that effectively supports Naac assessment. Why accreditation is considered to be very important today? Accreditation is much more than obtaining a grade. It represents an institution's commitment to quality education, transparency, and accountability. Naac accreditation serves as a nationally recognized benchmark that assures students, parents, employers, regulatory bodies, and society that an institution follows established standards of academic excellence. The process encourages institutions to undertake systematic self-evaluation, identify the strengths, recognize areas requiring improvement, and implement continuous quality enhancement practices. Most important thing, every institutional claim must be supported by authentic documentation. Therefore, good documentation becomes the backbone of successful accreditation. Let us now discuss the overview of 7 criteria. Naac evaluates an institution through 7 interconnected criteria. Criterion 1 focuses on curricular aspects. Criterion 2 evaluates teaching, learning, and evaluation. Criterion 3 assesses research, innovation, and extension activities. Criterion 4 examines infrastructure and learning resources. Criterion 5 concentrates on student progression and support systems. Criterion 6 reviews governance, leadership, and management. Criterion 7 evaluates institutional values and best practices. Together, these 7 criteria represent a comprehensive picture of institutional quality. Let us now discuss the individual criterion one by one. First, we are going to see about criterion 1, curricular aspects. The first criterion evaluates how effectively the curriculum aligns with the institution's vision and mission. It considers academic flexibility, value-added courses, skill development initiatives, entrepreneurship promotion, and curriculum enrichment through systematic feedback mechanisms. To support this criterion, institutions should maintain Board of Studies minutes, academic council approvals, revised syllabi, curriculum feedback collected from students, alumni, employees, and teachers, along with analysis reports and action taken reports. Well-documented curriculum revision records clearly demonstrate an institution's commitment to academic excellence. Criterion 2, teaching, learning, and evaluation. Criterion 2 focuses on student-centric teaching practices and effective evaluation systems. Naac examines innovative pedagogical methods, ICT integration, mentoring systems, outcome-based education, continuous internal evaluation, and remedial support. Essential documents include academic calendars, lesson plans, course files, attendance records, continuous internal evaluation question papers, answer scripts, mentor-mentee records, learning management system reports, and evidence of online teaching resources. These records collectively establish the effectiveness of institutional teaching learning practices. Criterion 3, Research Innovation and Extension. Research represents the intellectual strength of an institution. This criterion evaluates research culture, funded projects, innovation ecosystems, patents, publications, consultancy activities, extension programs, and collaborations. Documentation should include sanctioned research projects, grant approvals, patent applications, publication list supported with DOI information, indexed journal details, MOU, extension activity reports, outreach program records like NSS and NCC activities, photographs, and impact assessments. Every research claim should be supported by a verifiable documentary evidence. Criterion 4 is all about infrastructure and learning resources. Infrastructure forms the foundation for quality education. Naac evaluates classrooms, laboratories, libraries, digital resources, campus networking, maintenance systems, and utilization of facilities. Supporting documents include infrastructure augmentation records, building plans, library statistics, subscription details of e-resources, IT policies, bandwidth certificates, maintenance registers, utilization reports, and audited expenditure statements. These records demonstrate institutional commitment towards providing quality learning environments. Next one is Criterion 5, Student Support and Progression. Students remain the central focus of every educational institution. Criterion 5 evaluates scholarship, financial assistance, placement activities, career guidance, progression to higher studies, grievance redressal systems, anti-ragging initiatives, and students' participation in various competitions. Documentation should include scholarship, beneficiary records, placement statistics, employer details, higher education progression data, committee minutes, grievance resolution reports, and students' welfare activities. Evidence should clearly reflect measurable outcomes and student development. Next is Criterion 6, Governance, Leadership, and Management. Strong governance ensures institutional sustainability. This criterion examines strategic planning, participative management, faculty development, financial management, institutional leadership, and internal quality assurance. Important documents include strategic plans, institutional perspective plans, organizational charts, governing body minutes, faculty appraisal records, welfare initiatives, audited financial statements, internal audit reports, and policy documents. Good governance is reflected through systematic documentation and transparent decision making. Criterion 7, Institutional Values and Best Practices. The final criterion focuses on institutional ethics and social responsibility. NAC evaluates gender equity, environmental sustainability, green campus initiatives, human values, code of conduct, energy conservation, waste management, and institutional distinctiveness. Documentation includes green audit reports, energy audits, environmental initiatives, gender sensitization programs, policy documents, best practice reports, institutional distinctiveness statements, and supporting evidence demonstrating measurable impact. Institutions should present these initiatives not merely as activities but as meaningful contribution towards sustainable development. Now I'm going to tell you what to document and how to organize in a sequential flow. Effective documentation requires systematic planning. Institutions should organize evidence criteria-wise and year-wise. Each document should follow a consistent naming convention. Master folders should contain subfolders for every key indicator. All supporting documents should be prepared properly, hyperlinked wherever required, and easily retrievable during peer team visits. Maintaining a master evidence tracker significantly simplifies self-study report preparation. Remember, documentation should be created continuously rather than restructured at the end of the assessment cycle. Here are some basic tips I'm going to give you for the best practices in preparing the documentation for accreditation process. Successful institutions cultivate a culture of documentation throughout the year. Documentation should begin from the first day of every academic session. Criterion coordinators should regularly monitor evidence collection. Every document should be mapped directly to the relevant Naac metric. Internal reviews conducted by IQAC help, help to identify the missing documents before submission. Wherever possible, institutions should present numerical evidence, trends, percentages, and measurable achievements rather than descriptive statements alone. Finally, all documents should be securely stored both digitally and physically with proper backup mechanisms. So I'm going to tell you some of the quality metrics followed in Naac. Naac evaluates institution using two categories of metrics, say quantitative and qualitative metrics. First category is quantitative metrics, where institutions submit numerical data through prescribed templates. These are objectively verified during the assessment process. The second category consists of qualitative metrics, which require descriptive narratives within specified word limits. These narratives must be supported with authentic documentary evidence and relevant web links. Understanding this distinction enables institutions to prepare accurate and meaningful submissions. How to maintain consistency, accuracy, and impact during accreditation process while preparing the document. There are three principles which determine the credibility of institutional documentation. The first is consistency. Figures presented in the self-study report, AQAR institutional website, and supporting documents must be identical. Second is accuracy. Every statement should be supported by authentic, dated, and verifiable records. Third is impact. Documentation should demonstrate measurable improvements through institutional initiatives rather than simply describing activities. When documentation reflects consistency, accuracy, and impact, it creates confidence during peer team evaluation. As we conclude today's session, let us remember the four important lessons we learned today. First, understand all 7 Naac criteria as interconnected dimensions of institutional excellence. Second, establish a continuous criteria-wise documentation system rather than collecting evidence only before accreditation process. Third, prioritize authentic, verifiable, and well-organized evidence over excessive paperwork. Finally, ensure that every document demonstrates institutional growth, measurable outcomes, and commitment to continuous quality improvement. Documentation is not simply an administrative requirement, it is the documentary proof of an institution's journey towards academic excellence. Thank you very much for your active participation in today's session. I hope this discussion has provided practical insights into preparing high quality documentation for Naac 2026. In our next session, we shall continue exploring the accreditation framework with greater depth and practical implementation strategies. Until then, I encourage every participant to begin strengthening documentation practices within your respective institutions. Thank you once again. I look forward to meeting you in the next session. Thank you and have a wonderful day.